Thank you very much for making a date on today's edition of the Marketplace. Welcome back. Now, finance and accounting lecturer at the University of Education of Winneba is urging government to reward voluntary taxpayers to enhance compliance. Ghana has failed to meet its annual revenue target of 38 billion Ghana cedis. The Ghana Revenue Authority, GRA, has in recent times complained about high non-compliance amid persistent annual revenue shortfalls. Dr. Mbwani suggests incentives for regular taxpayers will address the challenge. Prince Apia has more in this report.
Ghana's tax revenue target for 2019 is 45 billion Ghana cedis, despite failure to meet last year's 38 billion Ghana cedis target. Finance and accounting lecturer at the University of Education Winneba, Dr. Joe Mbahuni, believes incentives for regular taxpayers will serve a good purpose to addressing major tax payment challenges.
We realize that in this country, many people don't like paying taxes, and it's not comfortable to pay tax. And so when you get some organization or individual who is committed and loyal in the payment of his taxes, in order to encourage those who are not loyal and committed, the loyal ones should be recognized and, if possible, even appreciated in a way. If you are loyal and committed to your tax payment, and for that matter you enjoy some kind of benefit from the government, like a tax rebate or some form of allowances or reliefs, it will encourage all others who are running away from taxes to also make sure they are committed and they are loyal to the payment of their taxes.
Dr. Mbawini is positive a bit more attention to committed taxpayers will help shore up tax revenues.
Yeah, it will encourage people to be tax compliant. And I'm looking forward for a time when loyal taxpayers in the country, once a year, they will recognize some people not for the quantum of amount that they have paid, but for the loyalty, for the consistency, and every month making sure they don't default in their tax payment. They are paying on time and paying in full. I think we must have a way of appreciating that. It will encourage the whole nation, and we will see tax payment not as a burden, not as a punishment, but as our civic responsibility as Ghanaians.
He spoke to Loud Business at the commemoration of the 15th anniversary of local bitumen producer Local Industries in Kumasi. The company opened a children's library to commemorate the celebrations. Robert Samuels is the manager for Local Industries Limited.
When we started teaching them Bible, we saw that they are lacking in English. So now we have about 200 kids coming here regularly every Saturday. That is when my wife decided, it's a vision to open a library for them. That's the main purpose of celebrating this annual. It's not the 15th year. 15th year, what have you done to the community after?
Meanwhile, head pastor for CCC, Pastor Ansoro, being admonished the workers to uphold high values at the workplaces.
Everyone, if you call yourself a Christian, let Christianity be seen at your workplace.
And have good values. You see, our biggest problem in Ghana is that our values are misplaced.
Prince Apia reporting.
Meanwhile, economist Professor Godfrey Bokwing is kicking against proposals for some drastic expenditure cuts in the mid-year review and supplementary budget presentation. George Rafe has been engaging the economist and has the rest of the story.
Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta is now expected to review the 2019 budget estimates and present a supplementary budget to Parliament on July 24. This is coming after the initial July 17 date was reviewed. According to the Public Financial Administration Act, the mid-year review should be presented before July 31 every year. There are calls that the Finance Minister should use the presentation to rather cut down on its expenditure if it's really committed to controlling the rising debts. But speaking to Joy Business, economist Professor Godfrey Bokwing argues that the time might not be right for any drastic expenditure cuts.
There are certain expenditures you cannot cut. the level of expenditure rigidity is such that compliance is more helpful than maybe just cutting those expenditures. Don't forget that ultimately government also needs to spend to stimulate economic growth. And remember that we have transitioned a bit from maybe the pure fiscal consolidation. We are doing a little bit of expansionary, looking into 2020 election and all of that. So, but if you check over the years also, we tend to do this. So I personally don't think that excessive expenditure cuts will be more helpful to us.
Don't you think that in our quest to try and control the deficit as well, then we'll end up again expanding the envelope?
I'm thinking that they are looking at this estimate will still be done within the broader fiscal framework of the deficit that government is working with. Okay, so once we keep to that level of deficit, then I don't think that there will be a problem. The problem comes when we spend in excess of the projected and those unbudgeted expenditures. Those are the issues, because deficit itself is not that harmful. It becomes more harmful when you look at its persistence, its magnitude as a percentage of GDP, the source of the financing, the destination, and all of that.
Professor Bobkin has also been talking about how government should use this presentation to deal with revenue shortfalls.
One thing that I believe that the government will have to respond to strongly in the media review is to look at the tax measures that they have put in place, because the revenue envelope has not responded the way we expect. And I think government will have to, the ministry would have to be much more stronger and perhaps be a little bit more realistic also in terms of admitting where we have gone wrong and where the potentials are for us to scale up. And more importantly, it's not just about talking about tax measures now. We have, what kind of sensitivity analysis have we done to indicate that these additional measures will bring in this amount of money or so? Because, look, our basic problem today, notwithstanding the expenditure inefficiency, which we can talk about, is the fact that we are not collecting sufficient tax revenue consistent with our tax potential, consistent even with our peers within the region.
For some analysts, this media review could be described as a make or break for government in terms of dealing with those factors that poses as a major threat to stabilizing the economy.
Let's move on to other stories. Now, government is exploring other means to strictly enforce laws on retail trade in the country. This is what we have picked up from persons working to enforce regulations on the retail trade. George Biafia has been following up on this particular development and has joined me in the studio with more. George, welcome.
Thank you so much.
So what are these measures that government is exploring?
For most of these foreign firms, you know that they have to do with permits renewals. You have to do with licensing and all the rest. And for instance, if you are operating in a retail space that is deemed to be illegal, when time is due for you to renew that license, there'll be a lot more scrutiny of the process to renew it. And if you don't meet the new requirement, then they'll just ask you to get out of the space. So they deem it as more of a diplomatic means. So licenses, permits, and all the rest. If you operate a shop in Makola, for instance, and you are seen as a foreigner, you are not supposed to operate in that space. And the time is due for you to renew your permits and all the rest. Those means are going to be used to ensure that they get you out of that space.
But George, you know, that has been the problem, because we have other people fronting for these foreigners. So you may be mapped out at the licensing stage.
Well, at the licensing stage, what we also realize, what we are picking up, is that unlike the past where a lot of people were fronting for these guys, now these guys are coming for themselves to renew these things. So that process could be used to ensure that they get them out of that space. And for instance, I believe that they don't think that, and for those who are working on this space, including government doesn't think that taking the tax force in, going to close shops, lock shop is sustainable. Using this approach, would then they be able to gradually get these guys out of this space, those who are not supposed to be in the retail place? Because the law says that it's only those retail market, those people are supposed to engage in petty trading, is reserved for indigents. So if you're a foreigner, unless you're bringing in X amount of capital and employing more than 20 Ghanaians, and you wouldn't want to invest about $1 million Ghana cedi, $1 million, employ 20 Ghanaians and do petty trading in circle. So it means that move to other space and ensure that the indigents occupy that space. So these measures, they believe that it is sustainable, and gradually they'll be able to use that to get these foreigners out of that space.
Now, questionable though, but how or what is the level of engagement between the major stakeholders?
What we are picking up is that for the indigenous, they still don't trust that government will be able to implement this thing really, and that is just about talk. So for some of them, they're arguing that, well, let's see that happen. Let's see that should be at circle when its time was due to renewal, you refused it because you were not supposed to be there. Then we'll trust what government is putting forward, that indeed they are indeed committed to clearing these illegal traders who are operating in the retail space or who are engaged in petty trading. Unless it happens, we still don't trust that government really is committed to enforcing this.
What's the way forward?
The way forward for me, from some have said that it's about enforcing these laws. But again, looking at the fact that in the regional economic cooperation space, you've actually Ghana has won the right to host this Africa Treaty Secretariat. So government is saying that they have to be very tactical in doing this. But for engaging government side also, they argue that they are committed to protecting this space for indigenous. So it looks like it's about enforcing the law. But the problem is, how should it be done to ensure that
are
both
we really
parties...
sure that local traders will really budge to this?
Well, right now, they still don't trust government, that the government is really committed when you engage some of them. They think that the government is not committed to this whole process. So it's about enforcing the law, but whether the two parties, for those who are foreigners, they argue that, listen, this is ECOWAS. You're talking about free trade. So allow us to be here. But the law is saying that when it comes to petty trading, it is not meant for foreigners.
So for now, review of the law is not part of it.
It's not what we are picking right now. It's not something that we'll be looking at right now in terms of changing the law. It's not on the table, but using these other diplomatic means to ensure that those who are in this space are Ghanaians and not foreigners.
Many thanks for that.
Thank you so much,
George Yafe, bringing us up to speed with the decision by government to actually keep foreign retailers on the local markets using diplomatic means. Let's turn attention to other stories. The World Food Programme, in collaboration with Women in Agriculture Directorate of the Northern Regional Agriculture Department, has distributed 120,000 orange-fleshed sweet potato vines to 1,000 smallholder farmers in 4 districts in the northern belt of the country under the Nutrition Sensitive Agriculture Initiative. World Food Programme Country Director Rukia Yakubu said the initiative promotes cultivation and consumption of nutrient-rich, easy-to-grow crops that address malnutrition. Rukia Yakubu made the statement at the inauguration of Orange Flesh Sweet Potato Nursery at Kiape in the Savannah region. Rafiq Salam has more.
The Orange Flesh Sweet Potato OFSP pilot project being implemented in 4 districts in the Upper West, Savannah and Northeast regions was started in 2017. It is aimed at improving the nutrition of vulnerable people in northern Ghana and providing income generation opportunities for smallholder women farmers engaged in its cultivation, as well as other actors along the OFSP value chain. It is a collaborative program between Women in Agriculture of the Northern Regional Agriculture Department, the International Potato Center, and the World Food Programme. World Food Programme Country Director Rukia Yakub explained that the OFSP is an easy-to-grow tuber crop with a relatively short growing cycle of 3 to 4 months from planting to harvest.
In 2018, over 120,000 orange sweet flesh potato vines were distributed to 1,000 smallholder women farmers in the 4 pilot districts. 4 women's groups comprising 320 women and 4 male secretaries have been taught to produce, add value, cook with orange flesh potato leaves and roots by WIAD and the Ghana Health Service.
Deputy Savannah Regional Minister Samuel Tuka urged agricultural extension officers to work closely with farmers groups and other parties to ensure widespread OFSP availability and sustainability.
The primary purpose for this initiative is to improve the nutritional and health status of our children in our household using OFSP, the vitamin A powerhouse. Incorporating OFSP in children's meals directly satisfies the primary outcomes of increasing vitamin A consumption and incomes of farmers' households.
Wole District Chief Executive Alele Veronica Herman spoke of the benefits that the women who are engaged on the project will derive.
There is no gainsaying of the benefit this project will bring to us, since the nurseries are going to be managed by women farmers and with the technical support from the directors of agriculture and extension officers. It is therefore expected that farmers patronize the cultivation of the orange flesh sweet potato and even extend some to their backyards to have all your year-round harvest to feed their families and sell some to improve their income levels.
To ensure the sustainability of the project, women farmers have been equipped with skills and basic technical knowledge which will enable them to manage the sites after the pilot phase. Reporting for JoyNews, Rafik Salam, KP, Savannah region.
Let's still stay within the agri sector. The efforts of two of the world's biggest cocoa producers, Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire, to exert more control on the market in a bid to help farmers could end up doing the exact opposite. That's a story by international network Bloomberg. According to the report, the move could end up encouraging growers to boost production just as high prices curb consumption. This, some traders and analysts say, could set the industry up for a dangerous boom and bust scenario. Let's go via Skype now and speak with economist Courage Boti with Databank for his views on this. Good afternoon, Courage. Welcome to the market, please.
Yeah, good afternoon, Emmanuel.
All right. Now, I believe
good afternoon to your listeners.
All right. I believe you've read a story. What is your initial thought on this?
Well, thank you. So the argument being advanced, I think theoretically it sounds about one-sided. Of course, what OPEC does is to control their production levels and then hope that that will prop up market prices to the levels they desire. And then in theory, really, in the market, you can control the price or control output, but not both. So if you are setting a price ceiling with the hope of propping up or improving the living conditions of your farmers, what you're doing really is you are pushing up prices, but that leaves you with no ability to control the output. But that price will certainly and therefore, it is a valid argument. But there are, I think, a lot of other variables in what Ghana and Ivory Coast are trying to do that is not being captured in the story. I think my initial thought on this particular topic when it came up earlier was that I know Ghana and Ivory Coast are talking to AFDB, the African Development Bank, and that development partner to set up not only storage houses but also domestic processes that can actually go a long way to keep some of the produce safely and then process some into forms that can be used later. And then really the value of cocoa or the value chain of cocoa, the most lucrative bit of it is in the processing aspect and not really the production of beans. So I think theoretically that argument may be okay, but it looks one-sided. It ignores a number of things that Ivory Coast and Ghana are doing that would help reduce that risk.
Now, what would be the effects on the markets, especially with the issue of futures buying on the international markets? Because, some of these investors, buy or get these cocoa beans ahead of time. What could be the impact?
Can you take your question again? I think I lost you a bit.
I was trying to ask or find out what the impact of this particular, development could be on the futures of cocoa beans buying.
Well, I mean, the initial reaction after all this, so prices moved up to within 11 months time since the introduction or the announcement of that policy. And mind you, it hasn't even taken effect really yet. So that is the initial reaction, and that is to tell you that the market anticipates that if OPEC is going to, did I say OPEC? If Ghana and Ivory Coast are going to fix that kind of a ceiling on pricing on the market, then potentially people will want to buy forward contracts now, because mind you, Ivory Coast Ghana say they will not sell forward contracts beyond 2020. So what that tells you is that they will want to scoop whatever is available for now ahead of that eventuality. So the initial reactions will be that, but ultimately you expect the market to revert to its normal level in the coming weeks.
Now, let's try to make a comparison between OPEC and Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire. With OPEC, we have many producers of crude oil. What about, the capacity of Ivory Coast and Ghana to actually maintain prices of cocoa?
So, fact is, OPEC has a lot of countries, but they control less of the oil market compared to what Ghana and Ivory Coast are doing. Ivory Coast, Ghana are controlling a little above 60% of the market. OPEC does much less than that. But their ability to sustain prices where they are will depend a lot on the other initiatives that are meant to not discourage production, but to be able to store those produce in good condition for the market, probably for sale in the future. How long will it take to develop those warehouses? How long will it take to build those processes or expand the domestic processing capacities for us to be able to mop up the excess produce that will be triggered as a result of the policy? Will determine the success of the whole policy, how we could sustain prices around the level they are envisaging. If it's just mere talk, you announce it, but you don't take any actions to put in place the structures needed to keep or store those produce successfully, it means it's invariably going to go back to the market. And we need to let regulation work. The good thing is that in Ghana, no one has the right to export cocoa beside cocoa board.
Okay.
I don't know how it works in Ivory Coast, but it looks like it's something similar. Now, if you leave the doors open and regulations are not enforced, and you allow farmers themselves to find their way to the external market, what they'll do is they'll dump the produce on the external market, and your purpose of trying to hold prices around the levels they're envisaging may fail in the end. So regulation needs to work, policy needs to be followed through, so that the processes, the storage houses will be put in place. If those are in place, maybe they could have some success at keeping prices where they want to be.
All right, many thanks for your inputs there. Courage Boti is an economist with Data Bank. He's been sharing or adding his comments on the decision, on the decision by Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire to impact cocoa prices on the world market. Meanwhile, cocoa processing company CPC has called on local commercial banks to support it with letters of credit. CPC believes support from the banks will increase their capacity to purchase more cocoa beans for processing locally. CEO Nana Ejinim Boateng tells Joy Business supporting the local processing firms would help them add value to cocoa beans.
The challenge, that's where cocoa board is coming again. Because of the syndication, we all are compelled to sell, and then we're left with what will not be able to suffice the industry players. So today, we just want to let the banks understand that they need to come and support in the form of credit facility, so that they can then get a reciprocal value. Because if they support the local processors, that will mean that we'll not go into the syndication, and then cocoa board can also give their beans for us to process. So we'll illustrate it today to let them know and understand the benefits that they get. It's from 10 billion to 120. What it means that if you also invest locally by purchasing the beans from cocoa board, which will not let cocoa board do the syndication, then it will mean that you also have that range. And then you will do your economic benefits and then appreciate it and say, don't let us syndicate. We can also do it here, and it will then boost the local consumption and support government's activity.
And on that note, we draw the curtains down on this afternoon's edition of The Marketplace. Thank you very much for your company. My name is Emmanuel Apuachi. Have a good afternoon.